There comes a moment in every life when the silence becomes too loud to ignore. A whisper turns into a roar. A voice buried beneath years of distraction, fear, and hesitation finally dares to rise and ask,
What are you doing with your life? Not the life you present to others, not the title on your business card or the filtered version on your screen, but the raw, unpolished truth of who you are and what you were put here to do. Most people never answer that question. They spend years running in circles, chasing goals they never chose, marching to rhythms composed by other people's opinions, only to wake up decades later wondering why the fire inside them died. Not because they weren't capable, but because they lacked a definite purpose. Purpose is not some abstract idea you stumble upon. It is forged in moments of deep reflection, forged in pain, in hunger, in longing for something more than survival. It is the anchor for your ambition, the North Star in your storm. Carnegie had it. So did Edison, Ford, Lincoln, Jobs, Disney. They were not just men of talent. They were men of clarity. They didn't wake up to see what happens. They woke up with intent, with precision, with fire. Because the man or woman who has found their definite purpose is a force of nature. They become immune to distraction. They stop chasing and start creating. They stop surviving and start building. It all begins with a decision. Not what you want, but what you're willing to commit to. Desire is not enough. Everyone wants success. Everyone wants freedom. But purpose, real purpose, asks, what are you willing to suffer for? Because purpose demands discipline. Purpose will challenge you, humiliate you, and stretch you to your limits. But it will also elevate you. It will wake you up when the world sleeps. It will sustain you when motivation dies. You don't find your purpose on a vision board. You find it in solitude, in silence, in sweat, in sacrifice.
You find it when you look in the mirror and say, I'm done living on autopilot. And when that decision is made, truly made, your world begins to bend. You see with new eyes. You walk with new power. You no longer drift with the current. You become the current. Because nothing in this world can stop the man who has decided where he's going. Not failure, not rejection, not time, not odds. A man with a definite purpose is not a slave to conditions. He is a creator of them. Napoleon Hill once said,
There is one quality that one must possess to win, and that is definiteness of purpose, the knowledge of what one wants, and the burning desire to possess it.
Let that burn in your chest like prophecy. Let it rearrange your DNA, because this world does not reward the hesitant. It rewards the relentless. It rewards those who say, I will not die full of potential. I will die empty because I gave it all. You see, once you decide who you are, once you know where you're going, the universe begins to organize itself around your intention. The people you need show up. The opportunities appear. Not by magic, but by magnetism. You become magnetic when you know what you're here to do. You must take steps when no one is watching. You must grind when no one is applauding. You must sacrifice weekends, comfort, pleasure, because greatness costs. There is no fast pass to legacy, no shortcut to mastery, and no destiny without discipline. But here's what separates the successful from the spectators. They don't wait until they feel ready. They move while afraid. They start before perfect. because they understand that purpose isn't something you find fully formed, it's something you carve one day at a time through discipline. Discipline is doing the work long after the mood has left. It's repeating the reps, refining the craft, honoring the schedule, because your vision is non-negotiable. It's not a nice to have, it's your mission. Think of Lincoln. He failed in business, lost elections, suffered heartbreak. Yet his purpose, to preserve a nation, to liberate the oppressed, carried him through the darkest trials. He didn't move by emotion, he moved by conviction. And so must you. Because once purpose has taken root in your soul, the pain becomes fuel. The delays become teachers. The obstacles become rites of passage. You stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and start declaring, "This is forging who I need to become." Your habits become sacred. Your time becomes protected. Your mind becomes fortified. And in that space, when belief, vision, and discipline collide, you step into your power. You walk differently. You speak differently. You attract differently. Because now the world sees it in you. The fire, the direction, the definiteness. You will be tested not once, not twice, but repeatedly. Because purpose is not given, it is proven. Every storm, every setback, every betrayal, it's all part of the contract. You don't become unbreakable by avoiding pain. You become unbreakable by walking through it and refusing to bow. Purpose is not for the fragile. It is for those who are willing to be reshaped by fire, to endure without applause, to persist without guarantee. There will be days when your vision is the only thing holding you together, days when the world tells you to quit, to settle, to be realistic. But remember this, every empire was once laughed at by people who gave up on their own dreams. When Henry Ford decided to build an automobile for the masses, they mocked him. They said, if I had asked people what they wanted, they'd have said faster horses. But Ford had something more powerful than public approval. He had vision. He had purpose. And when purpose meets resistance, it grows teeth. It becomes fierce. It sharpens your edge. It makes you ruthless with your time, your focus, your energy, because now your life is not about pleasing others. It's about building something eternal. It's about writing a legacy with your sweat, your scars, your decisions. And here's what separates the great from the forgotten. They do not adapt their vision to the times. They adapt their strategy, but the vision remains untouched. They evolve, but they don't abandon. They adjust, but they never retreat. Adaptability is survival, but resilience is conquest. Resilience says, you can knock me down 9 times, watch me rise 10. Resilience whispers, pain is temporary, purpose is forever. And if you look closely at every legend, every disruptor, every leader, every titan of history, you will find a moment when they were brought to their knees. Bankrupt, broken, alone, but they stood up anyway. Why? Because the purpose inside them was louder than the pain around them. It's not about being fearless. It's about being faithful to your purpose, even in fear, even in doubt, even in darkness. And that is where most people fall. Not because they lacked talent, but because they couldn't stay faithful to the mission when it stopped being easy. But you were not built for comfort. That's what purpose does. It transforms selfish ambition into sacred duty. It forces you to evolve beyond what do I get into who can I become, and ultimately, what will I give? Because the highest form of purpose is not success. It's significance, it's impact, its legacy. You begin to realize that your life, your discipline, your mindset, your story is someone else's survival guide. And every time you choose to rise, every time you choose to believe, every time you choose to act, you are lighting a path for someone who's watching in silence. You may never meet them. They may never say thank you. But your purpose reached them. And in that ripple, your life became something bigger than you. Because what you're really doing when you commit to a definite purpose is declaring war on the parts of you that prefer comfort over calling. You're killing the version of you that settles for good enough. You're burying the identity built on fear, excuses, and delay, and you're resurrecting something greater. The version of you that was always there, waiting for the decision. Not the version that chases hype, not the version that needs permission, but the version that leads, that builds, that becomes. Because becoming is the point, not the money, not the applause, not even the goal. The real prize is who you must become to fulfill your purpose. The mental sharpness, the emotional maturity, the spiritual grit, the ability to remain calm in chaos, to stay focused in noise, to stand alone in truth. That version of you doesn't arrive by accident. It is shaped in the trenches, molded in repetition, forged in fire. And the classroom of purpose has no vacations. Every failure is a teacher, every delay is a lesson, every no is sharpening your ability to hold the vision when the world says stop. Because here's the secret. Your path to purpose will never look like the brochure. It will confuse you. It will break you. It will leave you talking to the sky at 3 a.m. wondering if it's all worth it. But that's when you double down. That's when you plant your flag and say, this is who I am, this is why I am here, and this is what I was born to do. And in that moment, something shifts. The world doesn't become easier, you become stronger. You develop eyes that see patterns others miss, ears that hear truth in the midst of noise, a heart that remains steady while others panic. Because you're no longer living by reaction, you're living by design. And that design is sacred, it's personal. It's not based on what's trending, it's based on truth. You stop copying others because you finally trust your voice. You stop asking for directions from people who've never been where you're going. You stop living for approval. Your energy changes. People feel it. Doors open. Resources appear. Not because of luck, but because life bends to those who walk in purpose. But the highest level, the final evolution of purpose, is when you realize it's not about you at all. Your success is a tool. Your growth is a gift. Your wisdom is a weapon not to dominate others, but to lift them, to wake them up, to lead them forward, to remind them of who they are. Because what good is power if it dies with you? What good is success if it doesn't multiply? True legacy is when your name becomes unnecessary, but your impact echoes through generations. That is the real reward of purpose. Not the trophies, not the titles, but the transformation, the internal shift that says, I am no longer here to take, I am here to give. And that giving, that unshakable, relentless, purpose-fueled giving, is what separates the immortal from the forgotten. So now we ask the question, what will your life stand for? Not your possessions, not your titles, not your image, but your impact, your influence, your essence. Because in the end, your purpose is not something you wear. It's something you become. Something you leave behind in the lives you touched, in the minds you changed, in the hearts you set on fire with your example. This is not about being remembered. It's about being used. Used by something bigger than ego, bigger than fear, bigger than even your own dreams. When you truly walk in purpose, you stop chasing outcomes. You stop obsessing over when and how and who notices. You show up, because that's who you are now. Disciplined, driven, devoted. You work not for validation, but because the work itself is sacred. Because you understand that the habits you honor are either building your destiny or burying it. And here's what no one wants to admit. You're either a prisoner of distraction or a servant of purpose. There is no in-between. Every moment you trade for comfort, you steal from your calling. Every excuse you repeat is a brick in the wall between you and your greatness. But here's the beauty. You are one decision away from realignment. One deep, soul-level decision that says, I will no longer betray my future for the comfort of now. I will no longer shrink to make others comfortable. I will live this life on purpose, no matter the cost. That is the moment the shift begins. That is the moment you step out of the crowd and into the arena. When it whispered, slow down, you roared, I will not dim my fire to make others feel warm. And when the darkness came, as it always does, you didn't run. You stood still. You remembered your purpose, and you became the light. That is what this life demands. Not perfection, but purpose. Not comfort, but clarity. So what is your purpose? What are you willing to suffer for, bleed for, be misunderstood for, to see it fulfilled? This is not the season to wander. This is not the season to live by chance. This is the season to decide. To cut off everything that doesn't align with where you're going, to rise from the ashes of who you were into the fire of who you must become. Because your life, your one short, powerful, fragile life, is not a rehearsal. There are no do-overs. There is only now. And now is asking you to move, to claim your place, to own your story, to wake up and say, I was not born to fit in. I was not born to drift. I was not born to chase trends. I was born with a mission, and starting today, I walk in it. No matter how hard it gets, no matter who doubts, no matter how long it takes. Because once you find your definite purpose, you don't need a guarantee. You don't need applause. You don't even need to know how. You just need to take the first step, and then the next, and then the next. And over time, the mountain moves, the vision materializes, the old you fades, and what remains is power, is clarity, is purpose, the kind of purpose that builds empires, the kind that ignites revolutions, the kind that turns one soul on fire into a legacy that burns for generations. That power, that purpose is already in you. It's just been waiting for you to decide. So decide, not tomorrow, not next year, now.